Didn't fight the smartest fight, you can say, but that's kind of who he is. I think Canelo was mentioning it too. He's a guy who's going to come forward and fight with a lot of, you know what. Um, but yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like maybe a lot of fight fans were disappointed, expected maybe a little bit more. But like I stated before, can't take anything away from Roman Gonzalez.
Yeah, let me add a little bit to that Cesar Martinez performance. I don't want to be disrespectful, but that looked like a very RGBA type of fighter. No offense
Now you
to anybody,
disrespected
but it was just
two of
that
the
was
top
very
I know.
camps in
I'm sorry,
all
but
of
that was
boxing.
very one dimensional
Let's just cut
all
you off
offense.
there. Let's just cut you off there, Chris.
He says, I don't
My
mean to be
goodness.
disrespectful, and then throw shade immediately. It's just proper shade, like boom.
He just dissed
I
like
hate
Hey,
to be
20 fighters.
disrespectful, but F these
because
people.
when you think of the Canelo team, when you think of anybody that's
Oh my God, he continues.
you think of defense, you think of like angles, you think of, and I did not see Ray display any of that. He's highly rated, highly touted. Just expected a little bit more, man. Just I did obviously I kind of expected at least an 8-4, like win more rounds where it's close, competitive. You do have your youth on your side. I just obviously a lot of props goes to Chocolatito just on a different level, but just a little disappointed on and Rey not doing more than what was expected, especially being part of that Canelo team that's stable.
Did you
Well,
pay
I
like
think
the
like
zone pay-per-view for this or something? You sound very angry there. Did they get you somehow?
oh man. Do you have beef with Robert Garcia in some way or
I'm not Robert's a man.
no? I think like really what you saw more than anything is like you wouldn't look at any of Julio Cesar Martinez's past fights and say his defense is what got him through those. He's a dynamic fighter. He's a switch hitter. He has awkward punches and awkward angles, and I think more than anything that's worked for him. Throughout his career up to this point. So really, what you saw is a fighter who, the game plan, the thing that always works against everyone else, it didn't work against
Yeah.
Chocolatito, right? And then it's then what do you do? Are you dynamic enough to adjust, or what's Plan B?
That's right.
And things like that. And so it's not necessarily that I look at it and go, man, he had a disappointing performance. It's more he was fighting a guy who had all the answers. He wasn't confused by the punch angles. He wasn't confused by the footwork or the switch hitting. And then where do you go from there? And the only thing that he had is that heart, that mentality that like, okay, let's bang it out and maybe I can catch you in these exchanges. But that didn't work, right? So like that's more or less what I think. And more than anything, you'll have to go back and I think work on some things like, better defense or what do we do in these situations? And that's why I'm saying you can go one of two ways, right? You never know. His confidence may be shattered for another world-class opponent, or he could come back and say, hey, we spent a lot of time looking at what went wrong and we're doing things differently now.
And to add to that, try to bring it back from that amount of disrespect. You got to keep in mind too, he's not
From
only
Christian, to be clear, disrespect from Christian.
just to piggyback off what Sean said, just also keep in mind he's moving up in weight. He's not used to fighting at this weight. He missed weight, so I'm pretty sure that's in the back of his mind. Am I going to be able to keep this up for 12 rounds against Chocolatito? Obviously, we saw he couldn't because he was tired by round 7, 8. So I think everything was just adding up against him. And like Sean said, Chocolatito had the answers to everything. So, yeah, a lot of fans may be disappointed, but I mean, one thing to highlight is, for me at least, one positive is his chin. I mean, you never want a guy to block punches with his face, but if it happens, have a good chin. Cesar Martinez had a really good chin. He proved that he can get punched against a pretty powerful puncher, skilled puncher like Chocolatito. So if you want to take any positives away, that's one thing that I would mention. But I'm with you guys on the chat. Chris be tripping sometimes. Shout out to Clyde.
Yeah. What I'd liken it to, Chris, is if you ever see a power puncher who all he does is like lay waste to the lower level of competition, he's just annihilating people. He just get first round KO, first round KO, first round KO. But then like you get to a level where it's like, not everybody just lays down when you touch them. You know what I mean? And you see a lot of times these guys who made their bones just KOing the world coming up through the system, they reach a point where that doesn't work. And it's like, well, then what do you do? right?
Yeah.
Like that guy's not going away. So now what do you do, right? And a lot of times they don't have the answer for that because they never had to deal with it, right? And that's kind of what I look at it as. Like he just didn't have the answer for Chocolatito. He never had to deal with someone
Yeah.
that dynamic.
Especially a guy who's backing him up for the most part of the fight.
Right.
He was fighting on the back
yeah.
foot, and he's not used to that either. So I don't know how I would rate, El Rey's performance. If you still want to call him El Rey or not, I don't know how I would rate his performance, but I don't think it was terrible. I mean, I think it could have been a lot worse.